Investigators say the driver who killed a pregnant woman in a hit and run was going more than 100 miles per hour.
Frank Mosley, on your screen there, sentenced to 40 years in prison.
Rappers in Milwaukee don't usually blow each other's heads off like they do in other cities, but shocking things still happen there. For example, a Milwaukee man killed a pregnant woman last year. This was not on Milwaukee rapper Lil Frank's bingo card more than a year ago, but it happened, and he now has to spend the majority of his coming years paying for his actions. Years will pass, so make sure you watch the entire film to witness Lil Frank's sentencing. I promise you won't want to miss it. A judge sentenced Milwaukee rapper Lil Frank to 40 years in jail for his involvement in the fatal crash that claimed the life of a pregnant Shorewood lady, giving him the shock of his life. Mogensen
Aaron Mogensen was 32 years old when a reckless driver in a stolen car took her life.
The rapper, according to Aaron Morgensen's father Mark Hagan, and the rest of the family, broke their family eternally the moment Aaron's carelessness caused him to take her final breath. While in court, Aaron's father said,
"All her dreams were about to come true until her path crossed with evil."
Noting that Lil Frank was the one who was in the wrong place at the wrong time, not Aaron, Mr. Mark Hagan continued, referring to his late daughter and Lil Frank as the evil with whom she had crossed paths. Although nearly everyone agreed with the judge's decision to sentence the 21-year-old rapper to 40 years in prison, his mother felt the exact opposite, fainting in the courtroom when Circuit Judge David Swanson delivered the lengthy sentence. A jury had found Lil Frank guilty of reckless homicide around 2 months prior to the sentencing. The rapper had a lot to answer for and would probably be caught. The penalty was as everyone had anticipated: reckless homicide of an unborn child, hit and run involving death, and operating a vehicle while evading an officer. Cruel, but Lil Frank stuck to his position that the collision wasn't intentional. He continued to say that it was an accident and tried to apologize to Mogensen's family, but they didn't really care because they were grieving the loss of a loved one and her unborn child. Aaron Mogensen's mother claimed that the rapper's actions were heartless and purposeful.
His choices were deliberate and callous.
She also added,
He shattered our family, our dreams, and our future in one senseless act.
In addition, the rapper was given a 5-year jail sentence for a hit and run involving death and another 5-year sentence for fleeing an officer involving death. These sentences will be served in addition to his earlier punishment. When he is released from prison, Lil Frank will have to spend 10 years of extended supervision. However, the rapper has around 3 weeks to challenge the sentence. Lil Frank's car crash event. Based on what transpired the night of the crash, it's simple to blame Lil Frank. The incident may not have been deliberate, but the outcome wasn't shocking given the rapper's careless actions while he was at fault. The steering wheel. On November 2nd, 2023, a police officer spotted Lil Frank's BMW on West Capitol Drive. The BMW had every reason to be suspected because it had no license plates, but the unexpected happened when the Wausau police officer tried to pull the car over for a routine check. The officer even humped to try to get Lil Frank to stop, but he eventually realized the rapper was refusing to stop, which led to a fatal crash that ended the pregnant Aaron's life in the blink of an eye. Speedy pursuit. When the rapper realized he was no longer being pursued, he slowed down to 70 miles per hour as he passed the intersection of Capitol Drive and North 100th Street in Milwaukee. Unfortunately, it was too little too late, and the officer soon discovered the scene of a car crash. The rapper had collided Aaron Morgensen's Toyota with his BMW, killing Aaron at the scene almost instantly, according to surveillance footage. Lil Frank continued to drive at an unreasonable speed, estimated by the officer to be 160 miles per hour. The officer claimed he had to abandon the pursuit because the excessive speed might endanger innocent people. Aaron Morgensen's family claims that everything was going excellently for her until the rapper ended her life. About 4 years before the tragic accident, the 32-year-old had married her best friend, and they were planning a trip to Disney World with their first child on the way. According to Aaron's sister, Erin was living her best life when rapper Lil Frank crashed his BMW into hers and ran a red light.
Erin was not in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was living her best life, excited for what the future held for her and her growing family.
Ruth Argett, Erin's mother, said that the loss of her daughter is a terrible anguish that she will never overcome. The anguish is greatly increased by the fact that she not only lost her daughter, but also the grandson who was on the way, whom their family called Baby M. Erin was completely. Her greatest joy in life was spending time with friends and family. She also had a strong passion for animals and had recently started volunteering at the Milwaukee County Zoo. She and her husband had many plans to share their passions with their child, but her tragic death crushed it all.
A constant ache that has hollowed out my heart and darkened so many days that should have been filled with joy. We would have had a first snowfall today, and instead we've been left with silent, empty spaces.
By helping to create a court watch program that keeps an eye on reckless driving cases in Milwaukee County, Ms. Arad has been using her grief to help address the city's persistent reckless driving issue. The initiative, which is run by volunteers who keep tabs on comparable felony cases, has been working to make Milwaukee a safer place for pedestrians and drivers in an effort to stop as many preventable tragedies as possible. They want to release a report. Based on their findings, they hope to raise awareness and educate the public about ways to avoid terrible outcomes like the one Erin's family has experienced. Lil Frank's family statement prior to the tragic event. Lil Frank was making his family proud as his music had taken the rap world by storm. His success had earned him over 250,000 Instagram followers, and despite the accident brought on by his careless actions, his family still wants to support him, even though he has thrown away all of his chances of leading a successful life. Lil Frank gained notoriety when he made a dance that went viral on TikTok, achieving an unprecedented level of fame and placing him among Milwaukee's up-and-coming rappers. In addition to the rapper's mother fainting in court, Lil Frank's father, after whom the rapper was named, also had a reaction.
My son was a young man coming of age that made an irrational and impulsive decision that changed the course of his life and ours as well.
In order to allow the rapper to return to society and contribute positively in the future, Lil Frank's father begged the judge to reduce his son's sentence. However, it is clear that the judge refused to grant Lil Frank that chance. Therefore, the rapper's appeal was rejected, and he was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Additionally, Lil Frank's sister stated,
He's definitely not who everyone thinks that he is. He's not a monster. He's not none of that. He made one mistake,
His one mistake has put him in a difficult situation for a long time, and he won't be living a free life for decades to come. None of the rapper's family members' statements supported this.